In the new patch, EA have changed not the lengthy or the accelerate types per se, but basically in EA's words, some of the players with higher dribbling stats were incorrectly slowing down, which makes that lengthy accelerate type a lot less viable. So today I'm going to put it to the test. We're going to test out post-patch lengthy versus controlled versus explosive. Now, to make this test as fair as possible, we have chosen 3 players. We've got Ansu Fati, who is going to be our explosive player. We've got Richarlison, who's going to be our controlled player. And we've got Ross Barkley, who's going to be our lengthy player. Now, once again, to make this more fair, these guys all have similar pace after their chemistry style is applied. For example, Ross Barkley with a Hunter on 3 out of 3 chemistry in-game will look like this. Richarlison in-game will look like this, only 1 less pace than Ross Barkley. And as for Ansu Fati, we are not going to apply a chemistry style that affects his pace because he's already got 92 pace and he's already got explosive. So we are going to keep him as it is. So all of these players are within 2 pace at the absolute most of each other, and we are going to be going into a game, and big up to my brother for making this possible so we can test this, but we are going to be trying and racing these players against a lengthy Virgil van Dijk on 3 out of 3 chemistry with a shadow applied. Virgil van Dijk on lengthy with a shadow is going to go up to 89 pace in game, and we also tried him out against Eder Militao with a shadow, who goes to like 93 or 94 pace, something ridiculous like that, and Eder Militao is controlled instead of lengthy. For race number 1, it was Ansu Fati versus Virgil van Dijk. Ansu Fati, we kept a dead eye on, so it kept him at 92 pace to make it very comparable and a more fair test when we got to Barkley and Richarlison. Obviously, Ansu Fati is still explosive. Virgil van Dijk with a shadow on 89 pace and lengthy, and this is how the race went. Now, as you can see, Ansu Fati had the better of him to start, and one thing I also want to point out is Ansu Fati lost his stamina so much quicker, so much quicker, especially from the bat. You could just tell his stamina was getting drained a lot quicker, but still, nonetheless, Ansu Fati was a lot faster. Van Dijk did, though, catch up to him in time. So that is what I have noticed, and that is still what was in the patch notes. It still makes sense. Obviously, lengthy, original, going back to the first patch, lengthy is meant to catch up to a player over a period of time, and that did indeed happen, except that would have happened a whole lot earlier before this new patch. So Ansu Fati started off quicker, but he also remained at a top speed for a longer period of time than he did before this patch. Now for the next race, it is Richarlison, who is 93 pace in game with a Hunter as a controlled player versus, once again, the lengthy Virgil van Dijk. Now with this test, we did it 3 times and it came back with the same result 3 times. This one, we started a little bit ahead of the ball with Richarlison, and as you can see, he was faster. He kept a moderate pace through the whole way, and obviously 93 pace in game, like there's no way about it, he was literally just the quicker player. But I wanted to try it again. I wanted to do it at the exact same time. So me and my brother, we lined up, we did it at the same time, we ran when the timer got to a point. It would have been like maybe a split second, maybe one went before the other, but it was quite accurate. We did this a few times and we got the same result each time. I have noticed that the explosive player as an Ansu Fati starts quicker, but Virgil van Dijk catches up to him quicker. Whereas Richarlison stays at a controlled speed the whole way, and Virgil van Dijk, I mean, he probably towards the end of this clip and will once again slow it down. You could tell Virgil van Dijk was slowly catching up. About this point here, you could see Virgil van Dijk started gaining a little bit on him, and Richarlison started to slow down. But I think the controlled with 93 pace has been the best result so far. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We've got a lengthy Barkley versus a controlled Militao. The reason we're not putting him against Van Dijk is because lengthy versus lengthy, basically just a player with more pace is going to win, and that's just how it goes. Or even a defender, because obviously you're slower when you have the ball. Now with this one, I'm not going to lie, this was the clearest test of them all, and Militao just absolutely destroyed Ross Barkley. And even replaying it, you may go, but Militao started running before Ross Barkley. No, he did not. Because if you slow it down, as you can see, the movement I made was at the exact same time. But as once Barkley is lengthy, he starts a lot slower and he speeds up as time goes on. They both have exactly 94 pace in game with a Hunter. So when it comes to a controlled versus lengthy, 94 pace versus 94 pace, from a period of time, the lengthy player will win. But if it's a short period of time, like the example you've just seen, Eder Militao will win, because obviously the whole point of lengthy, you start slower and you get faster and faster, whereas controlled, you just start at a solid pace and you'll run to your pace. So a controlled player will start a whole lot quicker and catch up to them a whole lot quicker, but if you have a long period of time, if you will, if you're trying to send someone through, and I'd say you have to run a full third of a pitch, something like that, that's where the lengthy, you'll take note of the lengthy, and Barkley might actually win in a running race. So to conclude this experiment, in my opinion, accelerate types have not been nerfed per se, and let me elaborate on that. Now, when it comes to what EA is saying, and it makes sense from what I've experienced, they have not made the lengthy accelerate type worse. It is still the exact same, but what they have done is players with high dribbling and high pace attributes were having trouble reaching their top speed, and EA said in the first tweet, they said, and I'll show it on screen now, they were not reaching the speed they wanted them to, and obviously players with higher pace and higher dribbling are going to be either controlled or explosive, obviously. So they've not made lengthy worse, but they've just made control and explosive better, if that makes sense. As I said, when you are going to be a lengthy player like Barkley, and you are starting at the exact same time as a controlled player, the whole point of lengthy, it is in the description of it, you start off slower, and over a period of time, you hit your top speed. Whereas with controlled, you remain at a controlled speed the whole way, therefore, over a period of time, as I said, maybe a third of a pitch, Ross Barkley might have outpaced Eder Militao, but if we're going off of a short sprint, then Eder Militao is going to win the ball. I hope you guys did enjoy this experiment. Let me know what you think of the changes down below. Honestly, I don't mind it, because lengthy is still viable. It just means that my Neymar, my Messi, players like that are actually going to feel a lot faster now. Genuinely, I do not think this is a bad change.